First thing first, we want to use D3.js library. So the first thing to do is to import this library in our environment. How do we do that? Sorry, how do we do that? So it's simply can be done by setting a D3, like making an object and using require function and then adding the D3 sign 5, and this way we are going to import our D3 object and store that in D3. For the next section, we need to add we need to add our data inside the environment. There are a couple of ways. So let me first write what you want to do. So the next section is adding data. The next section is adding data. And so for this section, we have a couple of ways of adding data. We can either add our data line, this adding can be either inline or it can be as a file, or it can be importing from dataset or database. These three are the main ways we are going to introduce today how to do that. So let's go for the first part. In the first part, it's like adding the database inline is for teeny tiny databases that maybe you want to write an inline JSON, or you want to make an inline array, or let's say CSV file. So in those cases, sometimes you just want to make a simple array. For example, imagine I have primes number, and this is the first most simple types of adding data in any kind of environment. So this is an inline number, inline data type. Then I can have access to this primes number by calling the position inside the array, or getting it a bit more complicated, we can make an array of objects by using a CSV, like CSV parser. So D3 provides us with a CSV parser. D3.csv parse. This helps you to pass a CSV file to it, and it parses the file for you. So if I have an already existed database of cars, and I'm gonna copy paste that cars here. So this is a set of data for the CSV file for a series of cars. So we have name, some other features. I know this horsepower and gear. And so this is a CSV file. Data are separated by comma separated vector. And I'm gonna run this one, but before that, we need to store this inside a variable. So for example, my cars. And if I run this, now I have my array as my cars. And simply I can have access to this array of objects which in which each of these objects is a line, a row of my car. So if I get, for example, my car's 0, it returns me the first row, and then I can get the name of that car. So remind you that in JavaScript, every object is a set of keys and values, and so these would be the header file for the CSV part, like D3 CSV parser keeps the header files and put them as a key, and these are the values in each of the objects. So I'm gonna store that object and get this key, and when I run this, it should return me the corresponding value for that. It's weird. Oh, wait a minute. I'm go Okay, so I found the problem. I shouldn't have pre pressed enter there because it counts that as a character, and so everything after that would be um, wrong, wrongly assigned. So again, get back to the car. If I get my markers, it's gonna return the first object, and so that way I can get the corresponding value, for example, for the name of that, and return the name of that car. Name of that car. Yeah. Another way of importing data, which might be really useful for importing larger data sets, is to use git gist. What happens there is, so imagine I have these CSV values. I'm going to copy this, and gist is a place that you can simply put your snippet codes, put your data, and like use it in your web pages and so on. Like it's a server kind of things. So I can paste my data here. Then I'm gonna put a name for that, and I'm gonna save it. You already have access. We already like have a sample data for serial data. I have saved that, and I have shared the link on Canvas and on YouTube below in the comment section. However, if you're working for your own with your own data set, you can use this method to get access to to your data. So you first import your data into GitHub, like upload your data onto GitHub, and then ask for the raw data. So here's the link to my raw data. The next thing to do is to get back to your notebook, and here, let me make another block. I'm gonna use, again, using D3 parser CSV, and here you need to send a path to D3 parser.csv function. So this path can be somewhere from GitHub or any other place that you have your data. It can be anywhere on the web. So I have my data here, and then I'm gonna store that data into an object, and then I'm gonna use it. Ah, press enter. Yeah, and this way you can easily have access to your data. How? By calling cookies, by calling the object, and then getting access to each of the data sets the same way as we had here. Oops, I have just realized that these were under category of files, so let's edit it like this. And then the last part is importing data from data sets. I think you might find it interesting if you want to use data sets for your own. You can connect to make a client and connect your data set, and through there you can make a query, a select query or anything, and retrieve the data you want. I will share some link to that part of the lecture. So if for those who want to know more about how to connect their data to the data set, they can go through that link. I will share that link in the comments as well. So now that I have my data imported, then next step can be applying some like summarizing data and see what is our data and how it goes. So the next step would be summarizing our data. Yeah. Okay. So in this section, we are going to again work with that cars data sets. So for example, what we're going to do is to use D3. D3 provides us with a bunch of utilities for calculating summaries and getting descriptive statistics about our data. For example, mean, max, median, and deviations, maybe standard deviations, and so on. So, for example, if I want to get the maximum horsepower, I can go through d3.max, and you can see that some other functions, max, mean, median, merge, and so on. Okay, max, and then asking for the data set I want to work on. So it's called lists, and then what on on what column am I going to work? So the dot. So this stands for, if you recall from JavaScript, for this D stands for it's like an iterator. This goes through each of the lines, and each time it will be that same single line. So when I get D, when I refer to D, I can put this D as a general variable instead of each of these objects inside the call case, whatever that is. So I can get D dot horsepower and run that. So the maximum horsepower is 93, and the same pattern works for mean. I think you probably have noticed that, and other functions like mean and median. Oh, the median was 110. Anyways, and some other functions. So this is for the for the median, you can get the average and so on. You can also get the deviation. As I said, the deviation of your horsepower in this data set, in this small data set. So I think this was for this module. For maybe for if you have any more question, if you want to play with your data in some different ways, you also can go and take a look at, I think the window is wrong. You can go and take a look at provided notebooks. You can work those notebooks from IAT 355 and then start working on them and see how it goes. So the next part would be working with Vega Lite, and you wanna like do some small charts, make some small charts with Circle for the data set we have. However, before jumping to Recolite, I need to remind you of something. So let me show you something. Let's get this card is 0 and then retrieve value of name. No, maybe gear and see what that is. So what you can see here is that when we are storing data and when we are importing data from a link or from a file or things like that, although the functions indeed we are working on, but this value is in string format, and what we want to work with is having a data set, having objects with values, with real values. So I want it to be integer or numeric. How do we need to um, cast that somehow? So when we are importing the data from dataset, before doing that, we need to change the values to while we are importing that using d3.csv, we want to make a function there, and instead of just importing that, correcting it and importing it based on the knowledge we have about the already existed values. So here we have I have um, of a small CSV file named cities. Let me show you that cities. Okay, cities. So I assume you cannot see this part, so in order to make it visible, I'm going to make it mucus and put it there. So if I paste it here, we see that this is a small table of cities, 4 different cities, and their state, their population, and so on. So when I import that file from the internet, let's say cities is equal to d3.csv. I'm going to import that data, and this is no, this is not the path. This is a path to the CSV file. So here's the path, and then I need to do some pre-operation on my file, on my data. So I write a function, and in this function, I want to reset the values. How? By keeping the values that already existed in dataset and are in string format that I don't want to change. For example, I don't want to change city itself. Or I don't want to change state. However, here I want to change the population. So for the population, I'm gonna change it to plus d dot population. This plus is an unary operator, and this converts these types of data into a number. The same thing I want to happen for land area. However, this time, because land area in the original data has a space in its name, then it's not possible to put the space in the middle of the line. Instead, I'm gonna use brackets and use it as a string format, bring the name as a string format. So land area. And what is the error? Let's see. Let's see, why did I miss? Oh my god. How did I miss that? So I want to return in this function, I want to return the actual value. So return, and this is what I want to return. So these are the cities, and now if I ask for cities first element, second element, and ask for example, the population, this population would be in format of numeric and not in format of string. That's it. So now let's go to